Sorry guys, the battery died. So in other words, what we are saying very clearly then is if you have a sentence where the same subject, that means the person doing the verb or the thing doing the verb, occurs either side of the word que, if you have a subjunctive creating clause to the left of the que, then you need to be comfortable going into the infinitive rather than repeating the subject. In other words, I am happy that I left. I am happy de, auxiliary to be, left. Je suis content d'être parti. Now, let's knock this up a level. There are times when you can have the same subject either side of the que. Of course you can. If in a kind of indicative mood like I think I am going to go. Alors moi je pense que je vais y aller. Je pense que je vais y aller, rather. Je pense que je vais m'en aller. Je pense que je vais partir. You can say je pense aller. You can, like I'm thinking of going. You can do that without anything at all. But let's not confuse things right now. So je pense, he thinks that he's going to. Alors moi je pense que je vais. That's fine. He knows that he's going to come. Il sait très bien qu'il va venir. And this is something that's rather interesting. Like Italian, for example, wouldn't do this. Italian would say something to the along the lines of, penso di poter. Je pense pouvoir. I think I'm going to be able to come. Instead of je pense que je vais pouvoir venir, je pense que je pourrai venir. Italian would have to say je pense de pouvoir venir. Which is kind of sticking to the rule really closely. It's sort of saying you can't have anybody on the same, you can't have the same subject either side of the que. But then Italian does some really cool things where if you use je pense most of the time, if I'm not mistaken, you will always use the congiuntivo anyway. So yeah. So in other words, in terms of European languages, it's not just French that does this, okay? So if you were thinking if you think of it as I'm happy that I'm happy that I came, as in I'm happy to have come, if that helps you get there. So je suis content d'être venu, that might help you. So to remind you then that you can do this with a pronoun, so I'm happy that I ate it, je suis content de l'avoir mangé, I'm happy that you saw me, je suis content que tu m'aies vu, I'm happy that I saw you, je suis content de t'avoir vu. But where it gets a little bit new to your mouths is if you ended up with a verb which had a reflexive usage, a pronominal usage with this être model. So we've just established that if you have if you've just had a verb with an auxiliary like avoir or être, that the pronoun goes before. So for example, I'm happy after eating it, après l'avoir mangé, assuming it was the same person, après l'avoir mangé. I'm happy that I ate it, I'm happy to have eaten it, je suis content de l'avoir mangé. If you had a verb then which had the reflexive, so let's say I wash, so je me lave, tu te laves, il se lave, nous nous lavons, vous vous lavez, il se lave, or on se lave. Past tense, je me suis lavé, tu t'es lavé, il s'est lavé, nous nous sommes lavés, vous vous êtes lavés, ils se sont lavés. These are always reflexive, okay? I'm happy I woke up. Je suis content de m'être réveillé. Because you're now, instead of saying d'avoir or d'être, you are going to need to place the pronoun somewhere. And where do pronouns go? Before the verbs or before the infinitive verb. So je suis content de m'être réveillé. Okay? Completely perfect French. If you said, he's happy he's woken up, il est content de s'être réveillé. He's happy to have a wash. Il est content de se laver. He's happy that he has had a wash. He's happy to have had a wash. Il est content de s'être lavé. Now, this could come at the end of a ne and a pas. He's glad he didn't have a wash this morning because apparently there's something wrong with the water. Il est content de ne pas s'être lavé. Yeah? Rather than il est content qu'il ne se soit pas lavé. Okay? So il est content de ne pas s'être. Now, you're used to saying s'être as z'être, like after having eaten, après avoir mangé, after leaving, après être parti, because there you've got A-P-R-E with the graph S, letter E with accent. And that S with a vowel after it will be pronounced like a Z. However, when you've got an S apostrophe before your être, it will be pronounced s'être. So, for example, I'm happy, not that I am, but if it's like I shave, je me suis rasé. I'm happy I shaved, je suis content de m'être rasé. Yeah, je suis content de m'être rasé. You're happy you shaved, tu es content de t'être rasé. She's happy she shaved. Elle est contente de s'être rasée. S'être. Okay? Let's do a couple more then. So, Robbie's original question was, I'm sorry that I didn't come. Je suis désolé de ne pas être venu. Je suis désolé de ne pas être venu. I came, je suis venu. After coming, après être venu, if it were the same person. If it were a different person, after Luke came, Robbie gave him a glass of wine. Après que Luke est venu, that would be normal. Après que plus the past tense. Okay? Robbie's sorry, Robbie is sorry he's not coming. Alors, Robbie, il est désolé de ne pas venir. Robbie is sorry he didn't come. Robbie est désolé de ne pas être venu. De ne pas être venu. You would need to include this past tense, être or avoir. Good. So that's really kind of all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to just really introduce you to this concept. Now, you've done lots of avoir and être in the middle. You've primarily done this with après and avant. Let's be really honest. After eating, après avoir mangé, avant de manger, sorry. Après avoir mangé. Sorry, you've done it with après and you've done it with have and be. After leaving, après être parti, after arriving, après être arrivé, you've done it. Just remember that if you have a pronoun to play with, me, te, nous, vous, ce, le, la, les, lui, leur, I, on, it will go before the être. So let's just do some examples to finish. She's happy to go there. Elle est contente d'y aller. She's happy she didn't go there. Elle est contente de ne pas y être allée. She's happy she saw you guys. She's happy to see you guys. Elle est contente de vous voir. She's happy she saw you guys. Elle est contente de vous avoir vu. Yeah, elle est contente de vous avoir vu. Side note, not really the time and place to overload you, but you'd still then, because you've got an involvement of the passé composé past participle, vu, or not just the passé composé, you've got the past participle vu, you still have a preceding direct object there, a complément direct. So de vous avoir vu, there might be an S or even an ES if it was feminine plural on the end of the vu. Don't worry about that, but you would have. For those of you that understand that, there would be one. I remember, je m'en souviens. I remember it, sorry, je m'en souviens. I'm happy. Sorry. I remember the situation. Je me souviens de la situation. I'm happy. I remember the situation. Je suis content de m'être souvenu de la situation. I remember it. Je m'en souviens. I'm happy to remember it. Je suis content de m'en souvenir. I'm happy to have remembered it. Je suis content de m'en être souvenu. If you have these expressions and they go in the past, they will have a have and a be in the middle. In an auxiliary. They will come after the de. That will not be a problem for you. You will place any pronouns before the have or the be, and on the end of said have or be, you will have the past. You might have a ne and a pas before, after the de, and before you go into any pronoun. De ne pas l'avoir mangé. De ne jamais vous avoir touché. De ne... That sounds dodge. Yeah, it's going to work in the same way. Final little clue for you. When we practice our verbs I always talk about 10 primarily, then 11. Because what I basically mean is in spoken French, excluding the written tenses like, passé simple, etc., then there's kind of 5 with no auxiliary and there's 5 without an auxiliary. You've heard me do this example in this video, these videos. So, il mange, il mangeait, il mangera, il mangerait, qu'il mange. Il a mangé, il avait mangé, il aura mangé, il aurait mangé, c'est intéressant qu'il ait mangé. And if you're watching this video at this level and you haven't stopped and gone and watched other videos, then I'm imagining that you've come across that with me. But it's basically use the present, use the was, use the will, use the would, use the subjunctive, use the present in the middle, use the was in the middle, use the will in the middle, use the would in the middle, use the subjunctive in the middle. In other words, rather than going present, was, will, would, subjunctive, passé composé, plus que parfait, futur intérieur, condition intérieur, and passé subjonctif du passé, passé du subjonctif, you just go, right, present, was, will, would, subjunctive, present in the middle, I auxiliary, was in the middle, will in the middle, would in the middle. Subjunctive. It might help you to notice that was, will, would is in alphabetical order. W-A, W-I, W-O. And then if you guys work with me, I then always talk about the 11th. So in other words, you have 5 with no auxiliary, 5 with an auxiliary, and then an 11th one where you practice with an infinitive, which is incredibly useful. So for example, il mange, il mangeait, il mangera, il mangera qu'il mange, il a mangé, il avait mangé, il aura mangé, il aurait mangé. C'est bizarre qu'il ait, subjunctive past manger. Il va manger. And when you're doing a simple verb like that, people go, well, that's kind of stupidly obvious. And then I say, but wait until we get phrasal verbs going on. Wait until we get combination verbs that have got all kinds of different bits and pieces going on. You're going to need that in the infinitive. So say, for example, we did he remembers. It, so il s'en souvient, il s'en souvenait, il s'en souviendra, il s'en souviendrait. C'est bizarre qu'il s'en souvienne. Il s'en est souvenu, il s'en était souvenu, il s'en sera souvenu, il s'en serait souvenu. C'est bizarre qu'il s'en soit souvenu. I then like people to say, il va s'en souvenir. So you get used to doing that with the infinitive. And then I say, and then people say to me, oh, Luke, I understand, because va is go, and it's such a common tense for the future that we need to practice it that way. And I then say, it's not a tense formally, it's just so bloody common to have the verb to go and then an infinitive. It's a very common way of making, a tense, I suppose, in French. So for example, he's going to come. Yeah, it's not. But if you looked on word reference, you wouldn't see the conjugation il va venir. You wouldn't see that. It's not formally a tense. It's just a very common construct in language, in English and in French, to say he's going to come. In other languages, you wouldn't necessarily say that. Joking apart, I mentioned Italian earlier. You'd be much more likely in Italian to say, again, he will come, rather than he's going to come. If you said he's going to come, that would sort of suggest like he's going to eat. That'd be like he's going somewhere to eat. It would be different. So we need this go version, but it's not about the go. We're just practicing it as standard token with the verb to go so that we're comfortable using the expression in the infinitive. But it might not be about actually ever practicing it with go, to use it with go. We might need it with all kinds of first verbs. So for example, if I said, he gets on with me, il s'entend bien avec moi, il s'entendait bien, il s'entendra bien, s'entendrait bien, il s'entendra, il s'entendrait, qu'ils s'entendent, il s'est bien entendu, il s'était bien entendu, ce sera bien entendu, ce sera bien entendu. We've got all these different things going on, okay? We need, I resent him. Je lui en veux, je lui en voulais, je lui en voudrais, je lui en ai voulu, je lui en avais voulu. We've got all these different phrasal verbs where we need to do all of those tenses. But we might then have a two form. He's going to resent me. Il va m'en vouloir. I am going to resent him. Je vais lui en vouloir. But also without go. He should resent me. Yeah? Il devrait m'en vouloir. He could resent me. Il pourrait m'en vouloir. He, he would need to get on with me. Il aurait besoin de s'entendre avec moi. Like you would need that in an infinitive form of the verb. So, for our really advanced guys amongst you, if you then get in the habit of saying 5 without an auxiliary, 5 with an auxiliary, and our infinitive form, we can now knock this up to 12. We can now say 5 with an auxiliary, 6 with an auxiliary. We can say there's one infinitive, so there's 6 with an auxiliary. There's present, was, will, would, subjunctive, and the infinitive version with no auxiliary of have and be. And then we can say 6 with an auxiliary. The present in the middle, the was in the middle, the would in the middle, the present in the middle, the was in the middle, the will in the middle, the would in the middle, the subjunctive in the middle, the infinitive in the middle, like we've just done. So, in other words, with no auxiliary, 6, present, il mange, imperfect, il mangeait, was, he will. Side note for the more advanced, obviously was isn't always the imperfect, but, you know, as in, when I opened the door, I was cold. Alors quand j'ai ouvert la porte, j'ai eu froid. But if you're watching this video, you're normally up to that by now. So we're generally going to go with was. So he eats, il mange. He was eating, il mange. He will eat, il mangera. He would eat, il mangerait. It's interesting, he eats. C'est intéressant qu'il mange. I know it's the subjunctive there is the same as the normal one. He's going to eat, il va manger. Yeah? No haves or be's in the middle of those. Bottom 6. He has eaten, il a mangé. He had eaten, il avait mangé. He will have eaten, il aura mangé. He would have eaten, il aurait mangé. It's interesting, he has eaten, c'est intéressant qu'il ait mangé. After having eaten, après avoir mangé. I'm happy to have eaten. Je suis content d'avoir mangé. So I think it might be useful to learn to practice that one with je suis content d'avoir. Let's do a more interesting one. Let's do the verb to go. So let's say il est parti. So il part, il partait, il partira, il partirait. C'est intéressant qu'il parte, subjunctive. Infinitive with no auxiliary. Il va partir. 6 with an auxiliary. Il est parti, il était parti, il sera parti, il serait parti. C'est intéressant qu'il soit parti. Après être parti, infinitive in the middle. But we've agreed, sorry, I apologize, that we were going to do it with je suis. So je suis content d'être parti. Let's do a phrasal verb. No, let's do one with a pronoun. He's found it. He finds it. So il le trouve, il le trouvait, il le trouvera, il le trouverait. C'est intéressant qu'il le trouve, il l'a trouvé, il l'avait trouvé. Sorry, c'est intéressant qu'il le trouve, il va le trouver. Il l'a trouvé, il l'avait trouvé, il l'aura trouvé, il l'aurait trouvé. C'est intéressant qu'il l'ait trouvé. Après l'avoir trouvé, or je suis content de l'avoir trouvé. Let's do one with a be, with a pronoun. Il s'est... Let's do a they. We don't do enough they work. I was saying this to Robbie earlier. This video, as you know, is Robbie's video, so let's talk about that. So they. Let's say they... And shall we try and do one that doesn't involve an ER verb, an A verb? Let's try and use a soft hard. They sell themselves. Oh! Ils se vendent, ils se vendaient, ils se vendront, ils se vendraient. C'est intéressant qu'ils se vendent. Ils vont se vendre. Ils se sont vendus. Ils s'étaient vendus. Ils se seront vendus. Ils se seraient vendus. C'est intéressant qu'ils se soient vendus. Après s'être vendus. Or they're happy to sell themselves. Oh, they're happy to have sold themselves. Ils sont contents de s'être vendus. Dear, dear, dear. Lovely. Please make a donation to charities which support, sex trafficking or something underneath. Good. So I hope this has been useful. Any questions, please let me know. If you found this video useful, please click like. It's quite an advanced video, but we do have to do them from time to time. Lovely guys, if you are not on my, if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember that I have an Instagram and a TikTok account as Logic Language Learning or Logic Language Learning French. I think on Instagram it's Logic Language Learning French. The links will be underneath. If you're watching this on Instagram or TikTok, please remember that I have the YouTube channel where we have a lot more grammar videos. I do have a Kofi account. If you do find this useful, I do gratefully receive the coffee and I do spend it on coffee. It doesn't just get chucked in with everything else. it buys me my gluten-free oat latte, which helps run this ship. Okay, guys, thank you very, very much indeed. And thank you to Robbie for such a fabulous question.